Welcome to Worthy Ones, the video series where I take all the newest issue 1 comics that I read for the current comic book week and deem them worthy or not worthy. Guys, I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you love daily comic book content, you like me helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy, I think you came to the right place. Consider hitting that subscribe button. Yes, guys, there is a few independent books in here. There's a DC book. There's some One World Under Doom stuff in here. So I think it's going to be a fun episode. So let's go ahead and let's get started. The first book we're talking about on today's show goes to Stranger Things and Dungeons and Dragons, The Rise of Hellfire. This is issue 1. It's a 32-page comic for the price of $5. It's written by Jody Hauser and Eric Campbell. The art is done by Diego Galindo. The artwork is pretty good in the book. I wouldn't say like it's the best artwork or maybe the most detailed artwork, but if you're a fan of Eddie from Stranger Things, he definitely looks like the character. The facial expressions are in there. The book takes place between, I think, 1978 and 1985, as you get to learn about a young Eddie in here on the first time he's come across Dungeons and Dragons. And, you know, if you saw the Stranger Things show, right, you found out that this character is just infatuated with the game, and he is the leader of the Hellfire Club. So you just get to see that origin story, the first campaign that he's done. And then obviously as the series goes on, you get to see how he's gotten better at the game. And then his recruitment with is it Dustin and then Mike and then the other guy. Dude, I totally forgot the characters' names because I have not freaking seen the show in forever. But yeah, and you know what? I wasn't sure what to expect with this comic book, but I actually thought this book was worthy. Absolutely, it was good. I don't know, man. I thought it was going to be boring, you know, but Eddie was an interesting character in that show, and seeing the origin story of him is quite good. So I'm going to give this one a solid B. I thought it was a fun read. Again, it wasn't like the best comic I ever read, but it definitely fleshes out the character a little bit more. So the next book we're talking about is my sleeper pick of the week. I decided to go out and say, you know what? Go ahead, check this one out. It could be a lot of fun. This one is the Godzilla Heist. This is issue 1. It's 32 pages for the price of $5. It's written by Van Jensen, and the art is done by Kesley Ramsey. I wouldn't say maybe this is like the best artwork that I've ever seen. You know, when you see a Godzilla book, you want to see a real menacing-like monster, right? You want to see distinctive faces when it comes to the characters in the book. I thought the artwork was a little bit scratchy and whatnot, but nevertheless, the one thing that was really good about this story, though, was the story. It was literally about this person who is a crook, right, and goes out to rob this vault with tons of cash and uses technology to control Godzilla to create a distraction to help destroy the safe to get all this money. And in this comic book, we wind up seeing this other cast of characters who are also crooks that want to recruit this guy for this particular job. And, you know, obviously they threaten him because he's like, well, what if I don't do this job? And they're like, well, you can, you know, kick rocks and we'll kill you basically, you know? And he's like, all right, well, I guess I got no choice. So they're going to go out and do this huge freaking job. And at the end of it, though, there is this huge twist. And part of it has to do also with this guy's mother, right? He made a promise to his mom. This book definitely surprised me. This one was definitely worthy. Artwork is not the best, like I said. Very interesting how the character uses Godzilla here to get what he wants. And if the artwork was really solid, I would say that this book was actually an A+. But unfortunately, it's not. It's going to wind up being a B+ because the artwork does bring down that story a little bit. But very interesting. I'm definitely going to be reading this one going forward. So thank God the pressure's off of me this week saying that this book is horrible. I mean, it has a beginning, middle, and an end to it. That already beats last week's Hive. Zatanna, this is issue 1, 28 pages for the price of $4. This one is written and drawn by Jamal Campbell. I thought the artwork was actually really good in this comic book. I love kind of like all the panel layouts in here. There's all these different cast of characters and crew members that work with Zatanna. And when she uses her magic, it's quite interesting in here. Look at this page here. This is really nice also. And I had high expectations for this book because, and it is a different creative team, because of that last Black Label story that came out. That was a really phenomenal story. And so here I'm just kind of like, oh, are we going to get the same thing? And here we wind up getting to see like a show happening and an exploration of this place. And then you wind up seeing this enemy here known by the Lady White kind of take the cast and crew, and then she goes through this door and all these different places, and she winds up doing this like, I guess quite a little bit of a battle here between this woman, and then something happens with Zatanna at the end where, as the reader, you're kind of like, oh shit, you know, it leaves you with a great cliffhanger here to see what's going to happen with this, you know, with Zatanna, what's going to happen with this Lady White character, the crew, and everybody else. So for me, this book was worthy. I can't say this was like my favorite book or if I'm going to give it the best grade because, again, I'm not rich in history with maybe the cast of characters that were in this book, but it definitely was entertaining. I'm also not a big magic guy. Like, same with like if you go to the Marvel side of things, like I'm not a huge fan of Sorcerer Supreme. I was kind of sketchy about, you know, Strange Academy when that came out. And it's the same thing with Zatanna. I like her personality. Obviously, I like the way she looks. And again, I want to know more involvement with her story. So at the end of the day, I'm going to give this one a B-. It wasn't perfect for me in any stretch of the imagination. I just need more of this story so I can get into it a little bit. Weapon X-Men, this is issue 1, 32 pages for the price of $5. Here we go, One World Under Doom coverage. This one's written by Joe Casey, and the penciler here is done by Chris Cross. The artwork is pretty solid in this book. I do love the action scenes in here. You get a great cast of characters in this book. Like you get Wolverine and Deadpool and Cable and Chamber and all these different cast of characters. And the one thing that I did like about this book was Deadpool. It was just so funny because he comes up with the roster name of Weapon X-Men. And he's like, bro, he's like, he's like, none of these people came up with this. Not Claremont, not Liefeld, not Morrison, not that Hickman guy. He's like, me, I came up with that name. And it was just absolutely hysterical. But this book kind of has to deal with, in the beginning, with Wolverine kind of getting poisoned and you're not sure why. And then our cast of characters have to go out on this mission because something is going on and they're trying to find somebody. And nowhere near any shape or fashion does this book tie into One World Under Doom. At least not yet anyway. The only thing that's mentioned in this comic book is Latveria. That's it, right? And you wind up seeing a traitor amongst this group here, and you're kind of like, oh shit, I really didn't see that coming. Why does this traitor do the thing that he does? I'm not sure, right? But it did make for an interesting plot. But if you're looking for a book that's tying into One World Under Doom, this is not worthy, okay? Out of its own story, it's worthy. But it's just weird how this doesn't really tie into anything, at least not yet. The other thing that I have an issue with is Marvel's really all over their place with their characters right now. You got Deadpool in multiple books. You got Wolverine in multiple books. And if this is your major event and this is the canon event, how can all your other characters be in all these other books, right? I try not to look too hard into that stuff, but when you look at Wolverine, he's got Wolverine in Deadpool, you got Wolverine in this one, you got Wolverine in the X-Men. It's like it's all over the place, and it's the same with Deadpool. But again, I try not to overlook into that stuff because you can drive yourself crazy. But at the end of the day, like I said, when you look at this as just a story and not so much a tie-in to the event itself, it's a pretty good story. And even though I said it's not worthy because it's not tied into the One World Under Doom stuff, I'm still going to kind of continue this one, at least for now. Doom Academy, this is issue 1, 32 pages for the price of $5. This one's written by Mackenzie Cannonhead, and the art is done by Pasquale Ferry. The artwork is fine. Very adequate for the Strange Academy kids, right? And really what this book is about is where do the Strange Academy kids go now since there's no Strange Academy? Well, you go to freaking Lord Emperor Doom's freaking academy, right? And really what this book does is it establishes what Doom's place is, who the cast of characters are, who the roommates are, who's in charge of the yearbook and all the extracurricular activities, right? And so you get introduced to all the different cast of characters in here, which was pretty cool. And it seemed like the main characters were Shaylee and Zoe, and in one of their places, there's this specific haunting that went on, and there's this ghost that's there, and when Zoe goes to look around, she winds up getting trapped into a book, right? And the only thing that really ties into, I would say, One World Under Doom is because they're going to Doom's school. You don't really see Doom in this comic book at all. All you do is you see pictures of him in here, right? And it always looks like he's watching everybody, right? So, yeah, I mean, this book I thought was worthy. It was very exposition heavy, so if there's a book that you need some extra time to read, you need to kind of separate yourself from all the other comic books and read this one, because it does a lot of character development, kind of like where these characters are and everything else that goes there. Now, if you don't care about the Strange Academy kids, then this book is not going to be for you. I wouldn't say this is the perfect book. I would give this one a C+. Hopefully there's a little bit more action that ramps up going forward. But based off of that cliffhanger where Zoe gets sucked into that magical book, whether it's Doom's book or not, I think that's where it's going to lead into some action. Thunderbolts Doomstrike, this is issue 1, 32 pages for the price of $5. Another One World Under Doom comic book. This one is done by Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly. Tommaso Bianchi does the artwork. I wouldn't say that the artwork is perfect in this comic book, but it is adequate. There's some very interesting scenes in here. We wind up getting to see, what is her name? Songbird in this comic book, which is kind of cool. And really what this book is about Bucky Barnes just trying to go after Doom and take him out, right? Doom offers him a position as part of his police, and being that he's part of the Thunderbolts, he tried to get one up on Doom, and Doom was like, yeah, you're not going to do that. Now, if you bother me again, you're going to suffer some consequences. So Bucky Barnes comes up with this freaking plan to try to stop Doom with these nuclear weapons, right? And let's just say something really bad happens without spoiling it in this comic book, and Bucky is really stuck between a rock and a hard place in this comic book, and he almost dies, but there's other individuals that die in this comic book, and obviously, what does Dr. Doom do? Well, of course it's not Doom's fault, it's the freaking terrorist's fault, which is Bucky Barnes and everybody else that's around him. And then you kind of left with another cliffhanger at the end of this one as well. So this one surprised me. I didn't think this one was as good. I left a lot of it out because there's a really impactful 2-page spread in there. So this one is definitely worthy. You gotta buy this one. I feel like this is probably so far the best tie-in out of the bunch, and this really adds to the overall event of One World Under Doom. So I'm going to give this one an A, not quite an A+. The artwork wasn't quite there for me, but the story is interesting, and now I'm really curious on the direction of this and how pissed off Bucky Barnes is going to be going forward with this one. And there you have it, guys. There are my thoughts on this week's newest number ones. I could not get Herculoids. It was not available at my shop, and I haven't had a chance to read it digitally yet. So I'll probably talk about that on After the Pull if I get a chance to read it. And again, whatever other new number ones that you liked, leave it in the comment section below. And as always, there's more content right here for you to click on. Remember, support the local comic shops. Keep buying, keep collecting, but always read your comics so we can have great comic conversation. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you real soon. Take care. Bye.